Good morning to My World to Travel, a channel created by travel professionals for all the travel dreamers out there. We're continuing talking about Tahiti. I'm again enjoying my Tahitian cup of coffee, and it's an extra special recording because look at this. I got too hungry, and you could see look at those colors and look at that overwater bungalow. You know, all literally when you're there, you just want to dive in. But when I'm here, I just want to dig in if I can't be there. So in any case, this was all due to the wonderful, at this point, you guys know it all. Know her, love her, can't wait to see her. Let's get her on the Zoom. Christina Turini. We were just talking. I was just talking to your fans and telling them how I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to eat the cake. I swear there was an overwater bungalow here earlier.
It's a little taste of Bora Bora for your birthday. Happy birthday,
right.
Andrey.
Okay, so as I continue eating it, can you tell us who's crashed our Zoom today?
Well, I was really surprised because, I thought TSA was supposed to be really tight these days. But I'm pretty sure that Janet, our friend from Journese, Pleasant Holidays, is going to be here, as well as our good friend Dave McKay from Pearl Resorts, Tahiti, French Polynesia.
Well, let's see. Let's see if you're right. Janet, come on down. Good morning, Janet.
How are you?
Very well. I'm just eating cake over here. I don't know how you're doing. So, the sugar will kick in any second now.
I'm doing well. Happy birthday.
Thank you so much. And let's let in our last guest for the day, Dave. And let's see where he's at.
Hello.
I'm just here eating cake. Christina bought. It's been destroyed, guys. It took too long to get in. So I'm sorry. I'm just going to continue it. But as I eat the cake, we're going to, of course, continue talking about Tahiti and the amazing islands. And as we start with every episode, we're going to talk a little bit about kind of our Tahitian story and how we really came to love the islands and why we think it's a great destination in general and specifically also in the time of COVID. Christina, do you want to start?
I have to tell you, seeing Dave McKay and the beautiful Lake Taha'a background with the Mount Otamanu in the distance, the silhouette is really, it takes my breath away because that is one of my very favorite spots in all of the islands of Tahiti. And it reminds me of a gentleman who works there, and Dave can probably tell us more about it later and you can be more detailed. But I believe he's the most tattooed person in all of French Polynesia. And I believe he used to every Tuesday night do a fire dance. It is amazing, like the original fire dance. We're talking tattoos all over his body. And it's just, I get chills thinking about it. It's my favorite thing to tell people to go see. So that reminds me of my very first time I was in the islands of Tahiti. I was with a girlfriend and she wanted to get a tattoo. So we actually biked around the island, and which is really a fun thing to do. You can actually just rent a bike for about $15 in Vaitape and do the entire perimeter of Bora Bora. We stopped at a local tattoo artist and she got a tattoo. But before she got the tattoo, she didn't just say, I want a unicorn or a butterfly or a rose. He sat and he talked to her and he listened to her story. And the fact that we had been scuba diving with sharks and what that meant to her and all of her experiences, he did a personalized, customized tattoo for her experience and her story and her journey. And that really kind of ties into the feeling of the culture and the community in the islands of Tahiti. I didn't get a tattoo. The only tattoo I have is a little scrape from the Coral Garden in Lake Taha'a drift snorkel, which was worth it. My little bruise there, still there. That's the only tattoo I have. But seeing her get that and seeing the experience, it just touched me. And again, I was with a girlfriend. I wasn't there on a romantic holiday. And when I saw how beautiful the islands were and how amazing it was, I thought, what will this be like? How much sweeter this will be when I'm with my partner down the road. And so that's why that first trip, I remember that tattoo. I remember all the experiences we did, and it couldn't have been a sweeter memory. And
I haven't been to Tahiti as much as probably Christina and Dave, but I would say that the music aspect and the dancing, the Polynesian culture definitely left a mark. And mostly, I mean, I've been to Hawaii a lot of times, and so I've seen kind of like the Polynesian dancing there. What I really appreciated that kind of towards the end of all of the shows, the artists just stayed and sang songs until I don't know what time, maybe we into the night, and it almost felt like they just talked to each other like, you want to sing this? It was a performance that then went into the open like mic, but they performed it kind of thing. And I very much enjoyed it. And the same thing we had, one of the first places in the Sofitel in Papieti. Some of the artists performed, they did the dancing, they did their part, and then a couple of them changed and then just played guitar in the lobby. And you're just like, okay, cool. You know, you took requests, they sang French songs, native songs. I think towards the end of my trip, I definitely had a few of the numbers that I was like, this seems like a classic Tahitian song that if I go here long enough, I'll probably remember the lyrics for next time. Because I was like, everyone seems to say, you know, slightly sing along to it in the bar area. So I very much enjoyed that. Janet, do you have how did you discover Tahiti? How did you, like, what mark did it leave on you?
Well, I will share that, my experience with Journese has always brought me to Hawaii initially. And up until I entered to Tahiti, I had always described Hawaii as that amazing tropical location that the minute you step off the plane and you feel the warm breeze and you smell the aroma of the flowers, and you just kind of take it all in. And a good friend of mine used to describe it as a giant, big, warm hug the minute you walked off the plane. And up until my first time to Tahiti, that's the only experience I'd ever felt that. And then I arrived in Tahiti, and then it was that exponentially larger. I mean, it was just an amazing experience to arrive in Tahiti. And then, you know, everything was just larger. Everything was more, the flowers seemed to be more fragrant. The water was obviously clearer. And that was my first really aha moment that this is the ultimate tropical vacation. I was in an overwater bungalow, and I went out in the morning and put on my Tahitian mask, which is right here, by the way. Never leave home without this, right? So you've always got this hand. Go. I put on my Tahitian mask, and I climbed down on the ladder into the water, and I was holding myself on the ladder trying to affix my mask, and I started to feel these little nips at my arm, and I was trying to figure out, well, that's really strange. It can't be ripples. The water is very calm, very clear. And next thing I look down, and there's these fish beckoning me to come on into the water. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Another coworker who was on the trip with me, she did not know how to swim, so she'd never snorkeled in her entire life, and she could snorkel in Tahiti because all she had to do was walk out into the waist-high water and put her face down in the water, and she was officially snorkeling, and it was such a thrilling moment. I have not come across any place that you've been able to do that in my travels, so it's just been, I've only been 3 times, I'll admit that, and my husband has told me that I cannot go back until he's in the pictures because he's never been with me. So that's my next trip. That's my next trip.
And Dave, you know, you must have.
Yeah, I've got lots of stories. I was very fortunate, actually. I'm originally from New Zealand, so my love of Polynesia really started there, I think, you know, from high school, actually, because where I grew up was predominantly a Polynesian population. And so I literally grew up amongst the Polynesian people. And, you know, as people are talking here, as everybody's talking about, you know, the people and stuff like that, the Polynesian language is quite interesting actually, because it's a spoken language and not a written language. And so because of that, Polynesian people tend to be very social and welcoming and stuff like that. And also, of course, you know, when they're born, everybody's born with a guitar in their hand. So everybody can sing and dance and, you know, from a very early age. That's kind of a cool. But I've had lots of different experiences in Tahiti. One of my favorites actually is one where you actually do nothing. And that's at Taha'a, where on the arrivals docks, there's these two benches. And at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I sit on one bench on the one side, and the general manager usually sits on the other side. And there's just the calmness about the resort at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, where the wind drops and the sun starts to set. And then there's just this nothingness, so to speak. And I sit there for like an hour with the general manager, and I look at him and he looks at me. We don't even talk. And we just take in the whole surroundings of what we've got. And that to me is, I always enjoy when I go back to be able to just go to a place like Taha'a or anywhere like in Bora Bora and just have those really super quiet moments that probably you can only get in Tahiti, I think, sometimes, you know.
You know, the quiet moments sometimes are the best, when you're gonna look around and
yeah,
just taking everything around you.
And Christina did mention Tevita, you know, who is the most tattooed person in French Polynesia. So actually, just a tidbit for you is that when I'm in Tahiti and I go to Taha'a, Tevita in English means David.
Oh,
So
yeah.
when I'm at the resort, he's T1 and I'm T2, but I don't have the T1 part, which is all the tattoos. So it's kind of a little bit of fun that we have there at the resort. So and he's an amazing guy actually. He wanders around the resort all day, just interacting with the guests and stuff like that. And you know, he knows so much about the destination and certainly about the history and the culture of the people. It's pretty cool.
And one thing that's really interesting, Dave, thanks for sharing that. I had no idea that that's what his name meant. But the last time I was there, I saw that he had somebody that he may have been mentoring, or it seems like he's teaching other folks to do the fire dance and in passing the tradition along there. Is that right?
That's correct, and that's very much part of the culture. There's also a young guy there called Jean-Louis, who's also Tahitian, and he actually has his little 8-year-old son now learning the fire dancing and all that sort of stuff. So all the histories and traditions are passed down, you know, either through song and dance, through tattooing, as you mentioned. So, you know, as Christina said, you know, when you get a tattoo in Tahiti, you just don't get a tattoo. The tattoo artist wants to know a little bit about your family, about your history, and he'll design a tattoo that reflects you as a person. So it's a really kind of a cool thing. But yeah, so the cultural side of it is quite interesting.
Awesome. Yeah, well, so Tahiti is one of the destinations that currently American and Canadian people can go. Actually, everyone can go as long as they have a COVID test, you know, within the first 72 hours. And for more information, it will definitely be available. You can ask either one of us, me and Christina, and we'll share. Now, we also would like to, you know, focus a little of the discussion of why Tahiti is a great destination. And one of them is the social distancing aspect. Christina, do you want to speak to that?
Well, I mean, hearing Dave reflect on his moments with the GM at Taha'a, I mean, that experience in Taha'a, I mean, social distancing is what we all know now is really important, and it's something we need to practice. But let's face it, it was invented in the islands of Tahiti. It was originally known as privacy or seclusion. And that's what you have in particularly Taha'a, any of the pro resorts, any of the other properties. You just have this expansive beach that I have been to places where hotels, I'd say, what's your occupancy? Oh, we're full. You don't see one person just because the landmass is so large compared to the amount of visitors that are there in a typical year. So social distancing is really, it's very inherent and it's easy to do in Tahiti.
Jana, did you feel that on your 3 trips, or did you enjoy the
did.
social distance you had between you and your husband because he was thousands of miles
Yeah,
away?
that was a lot of distance. Yeah, no, she's absolutely right. You're all right. I mean, it's I wish I had the statistics, and you may have it, David. You might even have it. The number of people that go to Tahiti compared to the number of people that go to Hawaii or any of the other major, what we would call sun and sand destinations is, minuscule in comparison. So, and it's not just. I try to remind people too. It's not just a romantic destination. It is, but I have talked to many people that they go as a family. Because again, we are looking at our screens, right? We're looking at these small pictures. And David, when you were talking about sitting there and taking in the entire expansive experience while you're there, everything there is bigger than your monitor. Everything's bigger than the screens you're looking at home. So families really, I've found this is a great opportunity for multi-gen groups of friends, to go in their collective little, we call them now social bubbles, right? Where you're safe within that social bubble. You can do social distancing with other people, but you want to get together with some of your loved ones. When we start to, be able to travel more freely, we can travel now. And as people start to embrace the new era of traveling, I think they're going to find that a destination that they can spend some real quality time and not be worrying about crowds, but have their own group or their own family or their own, spouse or significant other with them and not have to worry about crowds. This is definitely the destination to do it.
And Dave, to your point, like we talked a little bit about the people. Now, a lot of people are probably familiar with Hawaii and the aloha spirit and the friendliness and kind of this extra thing. Like, how would you compare that to Tahiti in terms of like, do you need to speak French? Are the people welcoming? Are there any like social or cultural differences that people that travel to the island need to know so that they can better interact with the locals? Does that happen, or do you pretty much just stay in your resort most of the time? Can you go explore the island and feel safe? Can you go on a night drive around and walk around to a deserted beach somewhere?
Yeah, I mean Tahiti, like in all of Polynesia, safety is never going to be an issue for you there. And also I think the interactions with the local people is really, really interesting. A lot of Polynesians tend to be a little bit shy, and so when you're greeting with them, if you say Iorana, to the person who is bringing, serving you in the morning for coffee, and that sort of really breaks down the barrier just right there. And, I've talked to a lot of guests who, some of their best experiences have been, talking to the staff basically in the restaurant, and they come in the morning and they go and sit down for breakfast, and then before they know it, a cup of coffee is right in front of them, and the guests and the staff interact and just get talking, and then we talk about culture, but really it's more about interactions with people, I think, and I think that's very relevant in Tahiti. So, for example, somebody says, "Well, how many?" From Taha'a or Bora Bora, for example, somebody asks, how many? What's your family like? How big's your family? And they say, "Well, I've got 8 kids." What do you mean 8 kids? And it all just goes from there. And there's this great interaction that you actually see a lot of the time between the guests and the staff. Everybody pretty much speaks English. So, communicating is not really a problem. And obviously French is spoken widely, but, there's never any issue with communicating with people at any level, really. Because most of the kids on the resorts and stuff like that, they all speak English, so that's not really an issue. And I just think, again, that, Polynesian people are generally welcoming people. Life in Tahiti is pretty simple. It still maintains its traditions. Everybody, of course, has a cell phone now, but even so, the traditions are still there. And they tend to just live life as every new day is a new day, and there's a new adventure. And so for them, these issues that we sometimes think we have, to them they're like not really issues at all. It's like, well, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Let's just hang out and go and enjoy.
Dave is reminding me that so many times when I have clients and guests come back, they tell me about Matu, who introduced the best Poisson crew to him, or even my husband is singing the Maruru Roa song. I mean, it's the people that we experience these wonderful peak moments with, whether it's, he still tells me about the guy, sorry, I can't remember his name, in Taha'a that went to Australia and said, oh, no, it's not for me. It's not for me. I have to live in Taha'a. And it's the people that show us those experiences that are etched in our memory tracks. And, when fast forward to when you're working and you're busy and you're, worrying about things that you really shouldn't worry about, you can look at that photo and remember that person and remember that experience. And it's that one-to-one connection that you really inherently get, if you're open to it. If you don't want to, you can definitely be in your overwater bungalow, socially distant, swim, scuba, snorkel. But if you really as open as you want to be, I will say you will get that much back tenfold from the islands of Tahiti and the Tahitians, particularly at Lake Taha'a. That's one of the things I love so much, is that it's a relay and chateau property. So the food is really, really good. And Dave will know, obviously, but I think everybody who's employed there is from Raiatea or Taha'a. And so you get this really, really local feel. And Raiatea was a cultural capital before Papeete was the economic political capital. And so you have an intense culture there. You have the only UNESCO World Heritage Site in Polynesia in French Polynesia is in Raiatea, Maru Tapu Tapu Tea. So it's an archaeological site that you can go visit. I mean, there's so many experiences that you can do there. Or you can just lay out and get tan.
That's right. Now, Janet, this is all about dreaming and planning ahead and looking ahead. Majority of people that look at Tahiti, the roadblocks, there's probably two. Very romantic, and they can't just go there if they don't have a significant other because they're this. And if that, and the other part look of it and they're like, well, it's French, it's very going to be expensive, it's out of my budget, I'm not even going to look at it. What do you say to people like that?
I say reconsider and don't put off your dreams, because I talk to many, many people that have always confessed Tahiti and a trip to the South Pacific is on my bucket list. And I say to them, why are you waiting? This is the time to plan it. And interestingly enough, I had a friend a long time ago who told me about her trip planning, focus, or her whole idea of how to plan your bucket list and what you did first, second, third, etc. She described it as, okay, I'm going to plan for taking the trips that I need the least amount of clothing first. Because as I get older, no one's going to want to see me in a swimsuit. So I thought to myself, well, that's really fascinating, and I should probably adopt that idea as well. And but that puts Tahiti right up there, because shorts, a tank top, and some flip-flops, if you're not in a swimsuit, everything is very casual there. There's no need to pack a huge bag. It's really a great spot to be in. And also the value, really a lot of the resorts have really great promotions, really great offers. We are the #1 tour operator to Tahiti at Journese, and we have sent more people there than any other tour operator from the US. We find, in fact, right now, it is overselling, or I say overproducing, over Hawaii. So people are looking at this as a great opportunity to visit Tahiti and the South Pacific. So, the value is something people need to look at. rethink about it and don't make it just a once in a lifetime trip. We also have an opportunity now that we have a great cancel for any reason insurance. And we used to call this, we still are starting to call it now with the fact that hair salons are not open anymore, the bad hair day waiver. If for some reason, you've booked your trip 6 months, a year out, and you come right down to it and you say, I either don't feel comfortable, my hair color's not right, whatever it might be, you want to cancel, you can cancel and either get a voucher for future travel or get all of your money back minus the cost of the insurance. So we've got some great ways for people to plan, anticipate, and dream about a trip, and get it secured so that when the time comes, they're ready to go, but they have an out if they really need it.
I think, people often talk about Tahiti and the cost of there, but I think you've got to look at it from a value perspective. And there are a whole bunch of different ways that you can create value for people. As Janet mentioned, right now, there's some tremendous special offers that are in the marketplace. I mean, you're getting 30% discounts with free breakfast and dinner daily. Those types of programs are available right through until June next year. So those sort of things are happening. But it's also, if people are a little bit budget challenged, as I like to say, and you're going to Bora Bora, and everybody wants to stay in an overwater bungalow, but you haven't got the budget to quite get into an overwater bungalow. What you can do is look at a beach villa or a garden pool villa, for example, and which some of the resorts have. And that's going to give you a really strong price point. And then what you might want to do with that is your last night, you go into an overwater bungalow. And so you can still get your Tahitian dream, just by working with yourself and Christina and developing a plan where, using the bungalow types as well to create value, and that sort of thing. Or, working with doing multiple destinations. Let's say do Taha'a and Bora Bora, for example. In Taha'a, you might want to start by doing a beach villa in Taha'a, and then do an overwater bungalow experience in Bora Bora. And so again, what you can do is create value through different bungalow types. So that's another way of looking at it as well.
Yeah. Christina, do you have something?
Well, I was going to say, I know, Andrey, you and I talk about this a lot, and we have never seen these kinds of promotions and fairs in our decades long of booking travel 24/7. $730 airfare to Tahiti. Not only have the islands of Tahiti come up with a common cancellation program, which allows you to transfer funds as well to the next year. This program that Janet was referring to, the Journese program, is really phenomenal because, Andrey, I know you and I have spent hours and hours and hours on the phone fighting on behalf of our clients to get that waiver, to get that refund.
Bad hair excuse does not work.
What's that?
I said the bad hair excuse usually doesn't work.
Well, except if you have Andrey and myself on your side. That's all we do. We're like dogs with a bone. Am I right, Andrey? We just fight. But most of these insurance policies, they had that wonderful waiver that didn't include pandemics. So but this cancellation protection program that Janet is referring to is really a savior. So, I mean, TRE specialists such as Andrey and myself can navigate those waters and protect your investment, because that's what we do. We don't book one trip for 1 year. We do it all day long, every day of the year for decades. So that's our value.
Do it.
Now, no, really, and I just have to say that the islands of Tahiti, what they have done to come together to ensure that the opening is safe, responsible, and in my opinion, extremely hopeful. I'm so glad that you shared that those tests that have all come back negative. That's positive news. And so they are a COVID free destination right now, and their COVID preparedness is top notch, and we are there to protect your investment for you as well. So take advantage of these specials and these promotions because they are really phenomenal right now.
Exactly. Now that we've talked about ourselves so much, Christina and I, this is a perfect segue to see, like, hey guys, as travel professionals that have invested hours into learning about destinations, learning about our clients, what, like, how is your relationship with travel professionals? From like, what do you know, when somebody asks you, they're like, oh, Janet, I'll just, you know, call you and blah, 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 and you could take care of it. You work at Journeys, or like Dave's like, you're there, you know, T1, just tell T1 and T2, you know, they'll take care of it. You know, I'll just give me the overbought bungalow. Like, what do you say to those people? How is your relationship with the travel professional community? Whoever wants to go first.
I'll jump right in and suggest and just share with everybody that Journese is a product that is exclusive to the travel agent professional. So you cannot book my product unless you are working through a travel professional. And really that's because we feel that you do the best job, both of you, by the way. You do the best job at doing what's best for your customer. And you've got a backbone, I like to say, to me and the other executives at our company, so that we collectively have every angle covered for that client. So you're taking care of it at the front level with the client to figure out exactly what's the right location, the right timing, get the best situation for them, and then you come to us, and we're going to go back to the properties and negotiate the best offers, to the airlines, to the ground operators. We have wonderful ground operators for those private transfers. And then all the other activities, everything that's going to make the trip absolutely perfect. And then on top of that, we are the ones that will provide the 24/7 customer service while your customers are on the trip. So when they're there and they have a question, but the time is off, they don't want to wake you up in the middle of the night or early in the morning, whatever it might be, we're there to help them with whatever their needs are. And again, to provide the confidence and the ability to cancel or rebook if they need to. We take care of all that details. I think it's a real, you know, we've have to cover so many angles to make a dream trip happen, that having a team of the wholesaler and the travel professional on behalf of the customer, I think it works out the best way.
From my perspective, I think it's all in the details. You know, working with the travel agents themselves. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that actually goes on that the consumer doesn't actually sometimes see. You know, if you've got that particular relationship with that particular guest and you know that maybe they've gone through a difficult time, or they're going to Tahiti for a special occasion, or, you know, something's happened in their life that, you know, they just want to get away. You guys normally come to us and give us that explanation, and then, you know, we might provide some extra services for those types of guests as well, or for all the guests. You know, sometimes when the resorts are full and you need a room, the only way you're going to really get that is actually working through a travel agent. Because if somebody books direct, you know, our team are going to say we're full, and then they just move on. But in your case, what do you mean you're full? Dave, you've always got a room. And, you know, we will go out there and try and find the room for you. The classic example actually is when somebody books direct and they get to the Pearl Resort in Bora Bora, and they get to the airport and they're like, what do you mean I've got to pay for transfers? This is ridiculous. You know, whereas the person sitting next to them or standing next to them is booked through their travel professional or their travel advisor, and they just happily jump onto the transfer boat and off they go. And it's all these little details that I think, you know, that we work together on that really enhance the actual experience for the guests while they're there. Special meals, for example, you know, at all of our resorts, you know, we do special meals really, really well. Again, sometimes if somebody comes to our resort, they'll say, well, you know, I'm gluten-free or vegan or something like that. And it's like, well, okay, that's great. But if you're booking through you guys, we'll know that weeks in advance and have time to prepare.
Yeah.
And typically what we would do is that on your behalf, we'd have the food and beverage manager meet your guests on arrival. That only really happens if you're doing it through your travel professional partner.
We're transitioning to the COVID confessionals now, but one of mine, and I made this. I like to create surprises. That's maybe one of the reasons I like, and kind of point out the small details a lot of the times. And there was a time where I really just didn't really share. I kind of left the surprise to be there with the client, and then they're like, "Oh my God, they did this and this." And then I had one of my clients. They were traveling around for about a month, and they kept saying, they're like, "How did the hotel know that I don't drink wine and I drink beer? And oh my God, they're so nice. Like the manager gave me an upgrade." And I think like halfway through the trip, I'm like, they didn't know any of this. Like I reached out to them. I've had email exchanges with them forever. And this is how they know all these things. They're not mind readers. None of this would have happened if I wasn't involved, but it was like, it broke the camel's back, that trip. And then ever since then, I'm like, no, this happened because I put the time in, or another travel professional put the time in. Nobody else did it. It's not like because you were the lucky person that went to the front desk and suddenly they were like, we have a nicer room, or suddenly we have a bottle of champagne with you. They all, they think the hotel did it because, they like their, I don't know, their suitcase or their face or something, and I'm like, but there was a time when I did that and I was like, yeah, And then that trip, I was like, no, I made it happen. And nobody else did, and you should appreciate it. So
I'll drink to that.
There we go. Exactly. That's right. So,
You're here.
Cheers.
So true. So
now,
true.
Before we go to the COVID confessional, I know that the ease of travel is definitely, one of the things we would like to talk about, because many people don't even know where Tahiti is and they think it's really far away. And just a reminder, it's an 8 to 10 hour flight. There's nonstops from LA and San Francisco. And also it's only a 3 hour difference, same as Hawaii, because you do not cross the time zones. The 24
Or 2 hour difference depending on daylight saving.
Difference, exactly. So there's no jet lag, no nothing. But you do have to get on a plane. And Janet, you were just traveling. So tell us about kind of your new normal experience a little bit before we wrap this up.
Well, and I like to say 3 movies for your travel to Tahiti. So, and really, it was interesting. About a week and a half ago, my husband and I traveled domestically out of the San Jose airport to Nashville. So it's a 4 hour, 20-minute flight, and we really were anxious before we left, I'll be honest. But once we actually went through all the steps, driving to the airport, parking, going through TSA, getting on the plane, everything was just as we had hoped it would be. People were wearing masks, people were social distancing. The people at the airport were doing an amazing job, TSA, at gently reminding people to keep their distance if necessary. But, everyone's just learning the new normal, I think, and the new habits of how we have to behave. And I think that actually made for more people to have a little bit more camaraderie with their fellow travelers, because even though we don't have a smile to share with people, we have our eyes to really communicate. And I noticed people were really doing that, making much more eye contact, which is kind of nice. The flight was great. When we got to our destination, everybody was doing the same. So it's just a little bit more, get out there, do it yourself, do baby steps, I like to say. Once we started going out to the grocery store and then going out to other places and picking up food to bring home, things like that, we just need to kind of do things in phases. And once you start doing it, you get yourself ready to think about how you're going to do your next big vacation. And I think we're going to be in a state of travel that is going to include some social distancing, some mask wearing for a while now. So I think it's important for people to get more comfortable with it. And it really did not impact our mini vacation. We did do sightseeing. We did do all the things that we wanted to do. Everything was adapted a little bit, but it was still, when we got home, we felt like we'd been away. We had a little break from the reality, and we all need to look forward to that. We really do. We need to have something to look forward to, plan for, and to celebrate whatever it might be, whether it's just, a birthday, Andrey, or an anniversary, or a vacation that you've been putting off. Don't put it off. Don't put it off. Try to figure out how to make it happen.
Good advice.
Perfect. Yeah. So yeah, it is, as I said, hopefully us talking about it has helped you dream about it, travel, think about trips maybe you want to think about in 2021, 2022, or at the end of this year. Is a personal thing now. And so to that point, is everyone ready to travel? How is everyone feeling about it? I'll say that since the last episode, I've thought about Greece. There's a few resorts opening up, and I'm like, well, Greece, Turkey likes us. Greece probably will like us soon-ish. So I'm like, maybe in the fall I can go there and something like that. And I'm definitely constantly thinking, since my 40th was, zoomed out by the COVID. That's not an expression. I just made that up. But I'm definitely thinking of a big trip in 2021. When I turned 30, I did Thailand and Japan for about 3 weeks, and about 5 of us went, and it was an amazing experience. We made a book about it. So I'm thinking about that. So that's where I'm at. Janet, where are you at with your next trip? Do you have your next trip planned out? Are you ready? Are you comfortable now that you've done it?
Yeah, no, I'm ready. I have a family trip planned locally just to Tahoe, but I don't have my big trip planned for next year, but it's going to be Tahiti. That's going to be my next big trip. Absolutely. It's been on my list, and I haven't been able to get it accomplished to get that booked, but that's exactly where I'm going to head.
So now that you've been in the isolation and it's worked out with your husband that you can retire together, he qualifies to go to Tahiti finally. Right?
Yes, I've got the pareo waiting for him. Every now and then I ask him to model. But yes, we're ready. We're ready.
That's right. And Christina, what about you?
Well, you asked me this last week, and I was a little bit more conservative, but I will say I have been thinking about, we are definitely, well, hopefully, fingers crossed, going to go visit my in-laws in Italy in May. We usually go every November. My husband hasn't seen his family in a year, so we're definitely, that I don't want to say definitely, but I would say that's our realistic stretch goal is May, Italy. Fingers crossed.
That's right. And Dave, you're a Canadian, so you're free. You're much freer than the rest of us.
I am dying to get back to Bora Bora. We have the new Bora Bora Pearl opening in September, and all I get every day from the feedback I get from Tahiti, talking to our team in Tahiti, is like, gee, Dave, the Bora Bora Pearl Beach Resort's going to look great. And I get sent photos and images, and I'm just like, I just need to be there. So as soon as I can travel, I'm going to Bora Bora.
Yeah, well, I've changed my mind. I think if there's a brand new resort, me and Christina have to try it out. So maybe we'll just, we'll join you and just fly out there, right?
There you go. Let's do that.
I think
this September, right?
Got my mask. I'm ready.
There, you got your goggles. We're all ready to go, guys. Well, yeah. I finished my cake, so there's nothing left. So I gotta get extras. But thanks, guys, for coming again. I hope everyone enjoyed our chat about Tahiti. I hope you guys enjoyed our little casual chit chat. Again, the destination's open. It's hopeful it's doing well now. We hope it continues to do that, and we hope this little conversation helps you dream about travel. And we look to sharing more about various other destination travel and why travel professionals rock. And thanks for joining us, guys, and have a good day, everyone.
Aruru.
Okay. Aruru.